Welcome, blessed people out there. We have another special guest, not a new guest, I believe. You know, in 2022, around in the summertime, I had you on, but definitely a familiar face in the cannabis community, and a dynamic woman. I hope I can call her a friend. What's going on? What you doing?
Yeah. What's
So,
going on? Thank
Crystal.
you.
I'm not sure if you can hear me. Let me turn my volume there. Thank you
I
for
can. I
joining us.
can.
So, some people might remember you, but of course, you're from Philadelphia, right? And that's where you reside.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right.
So,
Cool. Yes. Yeah. I'm Kristal Bush. Yes, I've been on a show last year, and I'm back again. So thank you for having me. And I'm based out of Philly. Yes.
yes, and of course, I've been keeping up with you. Your organization. Your movie. What have you been up to? I guess since last summer, and what do you have on the horizon? This spring and summer.
Yeah, I mean, just to give your audience a background about me, my name is Kristal Bush. I have had the privilege of viewing our communities just from different lenses. So, as a social worker, as a community organizer, a cannabis patient, I have seen firsthand just the systematic injustice of our underserved communities. Since the time I was on your show, my documentary, which is called A Woman on the Outside, it world premiere at South by Southwest, which was last March of 2022. So I spent the entire 2022 just going on tour at different film festivals. And just a little bit about the work of A Woman on the Outside. It really was about the work that I have done. I spearheaded a prison van service that has reunited over 3,500 families with their incarcerated loved ones. And even just my own personal experience with my father being incarcerated for 25 years, both of my brothers just in and out of the prison system. And then it also showcased me adopting my nephew due to both of his parents being incarcerated. So yeah, that documentary is actually called A Woman on the Outside. And that just allowed me to be in just different rooms, just starting the conversation about how did we get here. I think a lot of times when we think about, the war on drugs and we think about mass incarceration, we often forget about the families that have been impacted, by this war on drugs. And that is something that the documentary actually showcased. And it showcased just the women really just holding it down and, carrying the burden of the prison system, from the phone time, from actually funding, to pay for lawyers or putting a house up as collateral for lawyer fees or for bail. So that's a little bit of what the documentary actually showcased, and that's the work that I've been doing after the last time I was on your show.
Hey, for sure. I know you're always on the go, always moving. And one of the questions I want to make sure that people know is so how can we view this documentary? Is there a way that we can view it? Is there a link? Is there something upcoming, or how can one view this doc?
So currently, all last year we spent time just traveling throughout the country, just um, the documentary is being picked up in different film festivals. Now we're leaning more towards smaller screenings. So of course it's not a link that we can send you, but if someone actually wanted to do like a small screening at like a university or just for like a government official, if you guys want to like get your community together and we can do our own private screening, we're open to that. Just starting that conversation. So yeah, like last year it was more so like the film festivals. This year we're really particular in just partnering with different organizations or just people who that we can use this documentary to screen and just start that conversation on like the women that's really holding it down and carrying that burden.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that I'm sure there'll be some areas in which we can connect for private screenings and of such in Maryland, because that we have we passed legalization on the ballot, and it's making its way to the governor's desk now that the General Assembly has ended. And so I'm sure there's some people that need to be educated, especially on the nuances.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the questions I wanted to ask you, I think you're of course a perfect guest. There was a bill in Maryland. It didn't go far. I'm sure there's, bills in other states. But basically, it was to make, phone calls free for, people who are incarcerated. And the reason being is because, like, I'm sure just like you or anybody else, who has had an incarcerated family member understands that it is substantial cost to actually connect and stay connected with people, your family, your friends, your loved ones, right? And so, like, how do you feel? Do you feel that, like, the phones would help? Like, is that something that you yourself advocate for? How do you feel about the free phones?
Yeah, I mean, I feel one, we got to look at who actually owns that phone system, and I feel like it's actually the fundamental human right for a person that's incarcerated to stay in contact with their family and their loved ones. And when we look at who's funding the phones, it's the people that's on the outside. I think, like, think about, like, when we used to have cell phones. Remember before, like, when cell phones first came out and it was like free at the 7, or you only get a certain amount of minutes. And then now we look at it now and it's unlimited. Like, they have the option of making a lot of these things for free, but they choose to charge the family members to really be able to, like, pay. It's just really us just funding a whole nother system. I think phone calls should be free, because who is funding them? Who is owning these phone systems? When we look at cell phones back in the day, it used to be you only get this certain amount of minutes, or it was free at the 7 or free on the weekends. And now everything is so unlimited. But that's the same thing even with these pay phones that's inside of these prisons. They have an opportunity to put a cap. They have an opportunity to say, hey, like, we don't want to charge, or you get free amount of phone time. You can get free, like, 500 minutes or something like that. Anything over 500 minutes, you may have to pay. I think it's really their human right to really stay connected with their family members. And then we got to think about even just the prison system. Like, the prison system is supposed to be a place where a person is rehabilitated. How can a person be rehabilitated if they're not even in touch with their support system? If they're not even, talking to them and hearing from people that's in the free world or outside of that prison. So I definitely think is their human right to stay connected with the community, stay connected with the people, their family members, while they do the time. And that burden should not fall on the family members, because that's really who's paying.
Wow, you're right. That is really who is paying. I'm glad that you brought that up. And just remind me, are there private prisons in Pennsylvania, or is it all state run?
Yeah. State is state run, but it is a few private. When I did my prison van service, I was going to 18 state prisons, and yeah, I mean, they're all state run.
Pretty much all state run. Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
Interesting. And so, speaking about, the state, I think that Pennsylvania will be one of the states that legalize next. To tell us about that. What are your thoughts? And what do you expect? What are you looking forward to?
We are. It is conversation about, PA legalizing next. I think, it is a lot of work that we need to do. There's a lot of organizing that needs to be done, in order for us to get to that point. I know a few organizations here are already doing the work, as far as like just getting the language from other different states. And we're meeting with different legislators and, just bringing that conversation up. I definitely, I'm fighting for, just an equitable, cannabis industry. I know a lot of people, we applaud a lot of these states that come on board, when they do rec, but if we're not advocating for the people that serve the time, and advocating outside of just that individual getting a dispensary, not everybody want a dispensary. Some people just want an opportunity, and it may not be in the cannabis industry. And also it's like, how are we defining directly impacted? A lot of times it's just, if you were locked up, okay, now you have access to get a dispensary. But what about the grandma who put her house up for collateral for her grandson who got locked up in the 90s? She don't want a dispensary, but she still should be compensated, for her pain and her suffering, and she's still directly impacted. So one, just understanding like, who are we defining as directly impacted, and how are we even compensating them? Even the people who were incarcerated, their children, are we allowing their children to get some type of free education? I think what we're asking for should be just more than a dispensary or a license. It like equity goes like far beyond that, and we're talking about housing equity. How are we making this, how are we using this opportunity to create fair and equal housing opportunities? How are we, using the cannabis industry to create, fair educational opportunities for people to get a pathway? And they don't necessarily, not everybody wants a dispensary, not everyone wants a license, but how can we actually still, make sure that we're helping those communities that were directly impacted?
And so we talked a lot about the opportunities and equity. What does that equity look like in terms of like resentencing, expungements, what is the conversation around that? I'm curious. Is there going to be, massive? I know that you guys did Governor, what are they called? Governor, darn. I'm sure you remember what I'm talking about. The last governor, right before he left office, he did a bunch of cannabis pardons.
Yeah, even that didn't really play out in a way that I guess, well, it may have played out in a way that they thought it would. But when you look at it from, a broader scale, it wasn't a lot of, publicity on it. A lot of people did not know about it. And I think out of like the 3,500 applications, only like 200 people qualified for it, or it was like a small percentage. I'm here advocating for automatic. I don't understand how we don't have a system that's in place that can actually pull the data of everyone who was locked up for this plant and just automatically expunge it. So that's what I'm saying. Like the short amount of time that they did advertise that program, only a small percentage of the people qualify. And even with that, we got to open up those different, we got to open up like the requirements and who qualify, because who currently have violent charges, their first charge possibly was a cannabis charge, and then they suffered the collateral consequences that led them to do this violent charge. So we have to look at that and look at a lot of these cases and understand that if it was not for that first cannabis charge, they wouldn't have ever suffered the collateral consequences. They possibly would have been able to get a good job. They would have been able to get adequate housing, education. But because they didn't, because of that one charge, now they have this violent charge, which now later leads to more violence. And that's what we're seeing. The gun violence is at an all-time high because a lot of people don't have no outlet, and we're still suffering from the damage that been done back in the 90s. A lot of children ended up in foster care. A lot of children, didn't have their parents. and how do we repair that? But I'm all for automatic expungements. I don't understand as to why someone has to apply, in order to have their record expunged. A lot of this is public record. I don't see, like, technology is at its best right now. So why can't we just create a system that go in and say, if you were locked up for illegal substance, because they weren't putting it, people were locked up for marijuana. It was illegal substance or narcotics. So even with that, we don't even know what that means, I think they can create a program that can go in and really just do an automatic expungement if they were like.
I mean, I agree. I'm always going to advocate for that. I don't even believe we got that at the end of the day in Maryland because, as you know, we separated the framework from a lot of the criminal justice provisions. And so that was one of my concerns, that we care about the money, but, not righting the wrongs, and not freeing Black and brown bodies, right? But I can talk about that all day. I'm sure you can talk about that all day. And so I wanted to ask you a couple questions before I got you out of here. The first question is 2024. I'm thinking it becomes legalized for responsible adult use, in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. How about you? Well, what is your take? Is it 24? That was it?
I believe 2024. That's my prediction. I think something is going to be on a ballot possibly this November. Who knows? I think, yeah. So 2024, I'm leaning towards that, but I'm in a place where, like I said, we got some organizing to do. So I'm not even trying to rush it because I just see the climate that we're in, and I know that it's going to take for us to really, like, join forces and all of us to come together to really get this right. So
sure. And next question, what's your favorite Black-owned cannabis business in Pennsylvania? And nobody else feel jealous, but you got to pick one.
In PA, my favorite Black-owned cannabis business.
Yeah, it could be a wide variety, so it doesn't have to be a dispensary.
I would definitely say Sunflower Space Cakes, because just her grind, she just been grinding. Like, she has a whole team where she's at, like, different festivals at once. So I'm definitely just inspired just by her grind. She makes vegan CBD vegan products, but then she also has a lounge. She has a Cannabis 420 lounge. She actually has two. So I would definitely say I'm inspired by her brand. Sure. Hella Black, Hella Loud. They're an ancillary brand.
There go another one. Another one.
Yeah. So I'm just inspired. Like, he came in and he been creating, like, these different products, from the grinders, and even just what he stand for. Like, Hella Black, Hella Loud. I love that. So yeah, those are my top.
Okay. Hey, we'll say less.
FreeMyWeedMan.
You gotta rep yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. You do a lot for Pennsylvania. And my last question to you is any big cannabis events that we should watch out for in your area?
Yeah, so Black Cannabis Week. This is, I think, the 6th annual event.
Yeah.
You came through last year. Thank you so much for coming through. We actually been planning that. So I would say Black Cannabis Week, and that's going to happen in September. We are looking for speakers. We're looking for just different people to come and vend. We're looking for judges for the award ceremony. She's planning to, Sharon, I want to say her name. Sharon is planning to have a career fair, an expungement clinic through Philadelphia Cannabis Business Association.
Yes.
Like, we're actually planning it right now. So we're definitely looking for some speakers who would like to join in on a conversation.
Sure. I look forward to the Cannabis Week, Black Cannabis Week, and hopefully it's at it's going to be at the university again, or are you guys looking at another location?
Yeah. So no, it's going to be at Temple University still.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. Right in the heart Okay. Well, I will see you soon. You stay blessed, and if I don't see you at NCF, I'm sure I will see you uh, sometime before Black Cannabis Week, probably.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for having me.
Yes, for sure. Thanks for joining.
Bye.
I see you next time. That was Miss Kristal Bush joining us all the way from Philadelphia. And of course, as always, we appreciate having new guests. And so I have a neighbor here from a local from a neighboring local jurisdiction. Thanks for joining us today, Mayor Jordan.
Hey, what's up, Martin? How you doing?
Hey, I am doing well. I cannot complain. You know,
It's a beautiful day outside. It's really great. I was
exactly.
out playing a
And
little
I'm
tennis
talking
before,
to you. No,
getting
I'm
a
just
few
kidding.
steps in, getting some exercise in. You gotta be in
Yes.
tip-top shape to be an elected official. You know that.
Oh, of course, absolutely. Yeah, I'm gonna get out there and do my walk-in later.
There you go.
And
How many steps you gonna get in?
how many steps? At least probably 2 miles. At least
Okay.
probably 2 miles. So
That's not
I
bad.
don't have the step counter yet. I gotta get that Apple Watch. So
Gotta get that watch, that little counter, Fitbit or whatever.
yes, and so for people who aren't familiar with you, just tell them a little bit about yourself and you know what you do.
Okay. Hey, well, I'm Emmett Jordan. I live in the city of Greenbelt. I've been here about 24 years now. From Cincinnati, Ohio, originally. Came here to work with the University of Maryland, College Park, back in about 1998. I moved to Greenbelt in 2000. And most of my work has been with nonprofit organizations. I've been a fundraising professional, development professional for many, many years.
Okay.
So, I had this skill set, and I was involved with a lot of volunteer organizations. So I knew how to kind of recruit volunteers. I knew how to raise money, and I knew how to talk to people and get them excited about different things. So I had this skill set, and I was always interested in politics, but never really pictured myself. Never pictured myself as an elected official. And if you told me, 20 years ago that Emmett Jordan, you would be mayor of the city of Greenbelt, I wouldn't have believed you. But public service is something that's been in my family. My mother was she worked with the Council on Aging. She did a lot of things. She worked with this organization called Housing Opportunities Made Equal in Cincinnati, Ohio, which they focused on redlining. So they would send out testers if someone felt that they'd been discriminated against. They had Caucasians and Black folks. They'd send out testers to see if the rental notices were on the up and up. So, and my father was a professor, high school teacher many years, English teacher. I speak a little English myself. He ended up working at the University of Cincinnati, and he was one of the first directors of the Black History African American Studies program at the University of Cincinnati. So, like I said, I've been here about 20 years. I was involved in a lot of things. When I moved to Greenbelt, there's just a lot of stuff to get involved with. I was doing, and I don't want to talk for too long, but I was doing a lot of work, volunteer work with the Urban League for a while. We had this group called the Urban Roundtable. Started doing voter registration at metro stations. This is back in 2004 or something like that. So, I got interested in voter registration. I became an election judge. I started getting involved in Greenbelt and different committees. And next thing, and I was aware of the fact that Greenbelt had never had an African American city council member, and that I was aware of that. That bothered me. But as things, progressed along, I just got involved in a lot of organizations. And the thing that really helped is there was an opening on the city council, because incumbency is a powerful thing. So I ran, I was in a parade with campaign signs, and I was knocking on people's doors. And I actually enjoyed it. That's another thing. You probably, I know you've knocked on a lot of doors in your lifetime, but it's interesting. People kind of come back at you as based on how you come at them. So I've had good experiences knocking on doors and just talking to people. I just like creating value. I think that life is short, and I think that it's our obligation to just do something to create a little value with the time that we have. And That's how I've tried to live my life. So that's my life story. That's it.
Well, no, I mean, like Emmett, of course, I've known you for several years, well before being elected, being a young Dem working for Councilmember Todd Turner, so I know that you are, a man in the community, your grassroots. And I would say that every time you speak, you got like this smooth speaking voice. So I could just listen. I'm like, oh, okay. Right? But all jokes aside, I didn't know that you were the first African American council member. I thought you were the first African American mayor. So
yeah, it's first African American, but up until 2009, there never been an African American who had served on the Greenbelt City Council.
Huh?
I've done a lot of things. Before I moved here, for a while, I was actually a music major in college for a while, studying flute and saxophone.
Yes.
Yeah. So I was actually in this reggae band for a while.
Yeah. Oh, you didn't tell me that. You did. I know you played the sax because I thought you were a basketball player. You remember? I was like, wait, you play basketball? You're like, no, a little bit of tennis, but it's really music.
Yeah. So I kind of after a while, I was actually a professional musician for a second, but that's a really hard life. So to make the transition, I decided to work in public radio for a while. So I was like a news director for the small public radio station in Cincinnati, Ohio, WAIF, Stepchild Radio. So that actually, helped me with my voice and actually prepared me to serve on council. Because one of the main things, mayors, we spend a lot of time reading proclamations, and at council meetings, we have to read these long ordinances. So, I mean, you never know what skills, are going to help you out later on in life.
You got to have a little charisma. You got to, and that's probably the best way to put it. You got a little charisma.
Yeah. So what are you up to today?
Today, many things. I was in the community, so I had coffee with one of the business owners who wanted to talk about some of their concerns. Other than that, I had to stop by the senior homes, or one of the three in the city, to talk to my grandmother. She lives in one of the apartments, so she's planning a citizens advisory committee celebration. They're celebrating their 1 year because she helped form a committee within her apartments, and they now inform management as a group, and they inform the city council. So, just going around the city. That's really all I'm up to.
That's good stuff. The big news, though, that I've heard recently, and you can tell me whether or not that's true. I understand that your Mayor Mo, is not going to run for mayor in November, and he served for about 21 years as mayor, and that's before he was council member before that. So
I think it's 21. Yeah, by the time he's done, it'll be 21 or 22 years as mayor, and then he was council before then. Yeah, that was the news of this week for sure. I mean, I definitely thanked him for his service, and still of course he's still serving, and it's definitely going to be different, of course, next year. So we have a mayors association, and we all talk about different things, and I like to kid around with him. He's such a serious guy some of the time, but I tell him he's my hero because he is so serious, and he's got that whole mayor attitude. When you walk into a room with or a meeting with him, and he's like, all business. So. Yeah, you're right about that. No, you're right about that. He's very hard to read, and if you get him to smile, you did something special. Yeah.
So you gonna run? You gonna be mayor?
Hey, I mean, whatever God plans, right? Whatever God plans, Right now, I'm just serving the community as best I can. But whatever God plans,
Yeah. Well, my hat's off to you because you have been serving the community in a lot of different ways for a long time, before getting on city council. So, keep it up.
Yes. I mean, trust and believe. Soon as I make that step, you'll be the first person I call.
Okay.
Or the second, because I respect you and your leadership, and as I said, you guys are one of the neighbors, and one of the things is I wanted to read you a comment from a constituent. So I asked the constituent like what she loves. About her city and what she would look for, you know, and a mayor, because just like you, one of the things that she said, who's the next mayor? Right. And I said, I don't know. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of voters deciding that. And then she was like, maybe it could be you. And I said, hey, if God intends that, right? But then I said, what do you look for, you know, in your city? And she said, I really like what I see in the city of Greenbelt. They place a high priority on vegetation and trees. It's a very green city, and it makes people feel good. There's shade to walk under. There's beautiful things to look at, and it makes people happy. These may seem like really simple things, but they really add community to community. And I was like, I don't disagree with that. That's what I said. I said, I don't disagree with that. I appreciate that. And so I just wanted to read you that comment.
No, it's true. You know, we do value our, we have one of the most extensive tree canopies anywhere in the DMV. Of course, it's because we have a national park right in the middle of Greenbelt. But, you know, our tree canopy, the environment's really, really important. And it does have a big impact on people's attitudes and how they treat one another. So, I mean, we're sort of in Laurel too. You know, we're right next to the Agricultural Research Center. You got NASA Goddard, you got the Patuxent Wildlife Center, and you know, when you put those all together, you end up with one of the largest green spaces, undeveloped green spaces in the perhaps on the East Coast.
Yeah.
So you know, that is really important stuff, and we're passionate. I'm passionate, and you know, tomorrow, for example, we're doing our Arbor Day program. So 10 o'clock we'll be over at Schramm Hills Park. We'll be planting some trees and doing some community beautification. And I love doing volunteer work. Actually, you know, being on council actually limits the amount of time I can do volunteer work.
Really?
So it's going to be fun. We'll be out there. We're going to have some donuts. And, you know, it'll be just folks from the neighborhood. There'll be a few, you know, organizations, maybe from the university or from Honor Society from Roosevelt, and yeah, kick it around outside for a couple hours. The weather's going to be nice, so it's going to be fun.
And you guys have, you know, I see that you guys are celebrating Pride. I think you guys celebrated last year, and we had something, and so you guys are celebrating again this year. It looks like an even bigger celebration.
Yeah, it's shaping up to be a big celebration. You know, to me, it's just something. It's a natural thing. You know, we have a very diverse community. So the fact that we actually, you know, raised the flag and commemorated it last year for the first time, it was just a very natural progression, you know, regardless of whether we raise the flag or not. It's there, and it's an important part of the community, us all in it together. So looking forward to that.
And you know, I would say knowing Greenbelt, they have a very green city, but they also have some diehard advocates, right? So I remember advocating with Greenbelters on the maglev. The Greenbelters on the maglev. There's nothing like Greenbelters against maglev, right? Like,
yeah, well, you know, it's a big deal, and you know, I get around. I travel quite a bit, and like I was telling you, I'm from Cincinnati, but I actually moved here. I was living up in northern New Jersey before I moved here. I lived there for a while, for about 10, 15 years, up in Essex County, outside of Newark, New Jersey. So when I moved here, you know, I still had a lot of friends up in the Garden State. So, you know, I'm on the train. I had to go up to, I was up in New York last Tuesday. Got the Amtrak. I don't know how I did this, but I got a $15 ticket to New York on the Amtrak train. But it's like one of those early morning trains. So I totally get it. You know, being able to get back and forth to Boston, to New York, you know, it's important. But I mean, we already have the Amtrak train. And when you talk about getting up to Baltimore in 20 minutes, hell, you can do that now. If the MARC trains ran on a regular basis, you know, the one that comes up the Camden line, stops in Riverdale Park, stops in College Park, stops in Greenbelt. If it wasn't for CSX, if we had that connection, if we actually put more money into it and had it running all the time, you know, that would meet the needs. So we've got infrastructure. We need to invest in the infrastructure. I am by no means against high-speed rail. I just think that we need to be savvy about how we invest in it. And that's why during this legislative session, I actually went up and testified on Delegate Williams' bill. I think it was HB 110, which would have prevented any public money, any Maryland money going towards the maglev. You know, these people that want, it's just the wrong project. And they're just forcing it through, trying to force it through literally and figuratively. It's going to come right through Greenbelt, they want to take over part of our forest preserve land that belongs to the city of Greenbelt that we set aside as a forest preserve. So these folks, if they want to build it, if they want to own it and they want to build it, then they need to pay for it. And
well, there's some people who might not understand what the maglev is. So just give them an overview on what the maglev is, because not everyone is super informed necessarily. So
okay, well, it's a high-speed train that floats on magnetic big magnets or something, so it kind of floats. And it would start off in Washington, D.C., stop at the Baltimore, Washington BWI Airport, stop at in Baltimore, and from there it would hit up to Philadelphia and in New York. So they're trying to build it one stage at a time. So it's just the Baltimore, it just doesn't benefit us in Prince George's County. They want to build these tunnels directly under the historic sites, through forest preserves, through green space above ground. It's not going to stop in Prince George's County, but we're taking the brunt of the development impacts. And there's a bigger issue about. Just don't get me going, Martin. I'm just going to. So there's a bigger issue just about the right of way. If you're going to do something like that, there's some things the public sector does better. The public sector, the government, the public sector, should be managing healthcare. In my opinion, the public sector needs to handle highways. There's just some things that really shouldn't be state by state or the private sector. And one of them is owning that right of way between here and New York and Boston. That's valuable stuff. And, if you want to have a private company come in and own that, that's kind of like the problem we currently have with the Camden line, CSX, the freight rail. They own that rail line. So we can't make the connection for passengers because, somebody else owns it. So, don't get me started. I could go.
You're right. Hey, my thing is start in New York, and if they approve it, you come down here. But start in New York. Don't start up here as the project.
Just on the social tip, New York's powerful, but Philadelphia is a great city. I don't see why more people from here don't go for a quick weekend in Philadelphia. Philadelphia is beautiful.
I agree, and my last guest was from Philly, so you
take the train right up there. So we need to invest in Amtrak, especially with public money, and just kind of fix up the infrastructure that we have, and hopefully, this money that's coming out of the federal government from COVID, the infrastructure bill, we can actually use some of that money locally and regionally to beef up these connections between cities. You should be able to get from DC. From Prince George's County, from Greenbelt, or from Laurel, to Baltimore, 24 hours a day, and you should be able to do it for about $5.
Well, I've always wanted that green line to extend down to Laurel. So you're speaking wonders. But I know that's a little more politics than just money. But I know I had a question for you in relation. So we have cannabis legalization.
Yeah.
What does that mean for municipalities? I know that we'll be hearing a lot from MML. Can you expect more responsible cannabis tourism? And how would that look from a city perspective?
Well, it's a mixed bag.
That's fair. That's fair.
It really is. I've been a proponent of legalized marijuana for cannabis, for years. But the way that this is going down for municipalities, there's some issues just in terms of us being able to manage where it is so that people can access it responsibly. Yeah, there's an agricultural heritage here in Maryland, and I think we're actually a little bit late getting on the boat here. There's so much Upper Marlboro and so much of a legacy of tobacco. I think that we could maybe in Maryland become a major manufacturer or resource or a producer, because it's almost in the DNA here. But with this kind of coming so fast and being changes in the legislative the way the bill looks, I'm not even sure how it was amended, but at one point it's going to be taxed, but the municipalities were not going to get a reasonable share of that income just to kind of handle the impacts, because we want to be able to manage it responsibly. We want it to be in places, appropriate places, and there are going to be some impacts, social impacts, just in terms of how it's dealt with. So it really is a mixed bag. I was thinking that you might ask me something about this. So
it's fair. I mean, it's fair. It's a fair question.
Well, so here's one thing that I'm not so pleased about.
Sure.
I'm supportive. I do think, and for many years, I've thought that marijuana adults should be able to do whatever they want to, pretty much, as long as it doesn't hurt other people. Just as a general principle, I think that's true. But this business, there was a bill that passed that had to do with police being able to search a vehicle based on the smell of cannabis.
Yes,
and I don't know how I feel about that. I think that.
Well, let's talk about it.
I've been around a little bit, and you open a car door and smoke comes out. Or I don't know if you ever saw that movie, The Big Lebowski. There's that scene where he's in his car and he drops something and it sets the car on fire. You ever see that?
It's a classic.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
At the end of the day, my main point is the smell is arbitrary. You might be smelling legal CBD. And at the end of the day, an indication of smell does not mean that I'm burning it then, nor does that mean I burnt it recently. So I understand the example of the smell hitting the cop as the cop pulls you over, but that's not necessarily every situation. So we know that's not the case.
Yeah, but if
it's for legal.
If somebody even if they've used medicinal, I don't know if someone right after using should be behind the wheel driving a car.
I mean, I would say saying someone who should be.
It's not. I know a little bit, so it's not the same as alcohol. I mean,
we're not. No, it's even better. It's even better than alcohol, to be clear. But I would never advocate for somebody to smoke and drive, or to smoke and then start driving. Right? Of course, we're advocating for responsible use. But what I am saying is that the smell in their car is not indicative of them committing a crime or smoking while driving or anything of the nature. So that's what I'm saying simply.
So I'm a little concerned about that. I don't know how our police department or the state police or county police are going to deal with that.
You're taking away their tool to discriminate. Yes, you're taking away their tool, and that's what you heard the sheriff say in the state's capital. That's what they said. This is our tool. You're taking away their tool, right? There's several other tools they can use to find weapons. There's several other tools they can use to, do their policing. But of course, harassing somebody for a now legal smell, that is not okay. And most states,
no, it's not okay. But there's kind of a question of degree a little bit, and just getting away from the car, just in general. There was a case that actually, I believe it went to the state Supreme Court or the highest court in the state, and it happened in our housing cooperative, and it had to do with cigarette smoke. People that live in apartments or condominiums. I live in a garden style condominium development myself. The construction is such that fumes will move up and down or through the walls. So to the extent that someone's exercise of their own rights impacts other people, that could be a problem. So I'm thinking those are some of the fallouts that I'm thinking with the legalization, with the recreational.
In the terms of housing, right? So that's why when we talk about those multi-unit housing, we need to create places like in some of those multi-unit housing, they have places where you can go smoke your cigarettes. A lot of times they would be called butt huts or smoking areas. And so
everybody in a townhouse development or a row house, agrees that it's okay. Then it's okay.
Sure. Absolutely.
So I'm just
seeing. I don't believe you should be breaking your lease and smoking inside the same way you shouldn't be smoking cigarettes inside if that's against your lease, right? And so I'm not advocating for that, But of course, that's why I said you need these safe spaces, and to some extent, you probably need some type of consumption lounges. Otherwise, people are going to be doing it, and not everyone lives, in a single family home where they could just, use
Right.
at their own leisure.
Yeah, and what about public places? I mean, there are limits on where you can consume alcohol.
Sure.
So, would it be okay to, just light up or, or
Well,
vape
here's,
right there at the bus stop or in
here's
the
what I'll
park
say.
by
Here's
the
what I'll say.
playground?
No, here's what I'll say. I wouldn't advocate for the playgrounds or the schoolyards, but anywhere you can smoke a cigarette, you can light a joint. And we're not doing those in restaurants, right? Like a lot of times we're not allowed to smoke in restaurants, so that's why they're creating these patio areas or these special exemptions. So
Right.
that definitely wouldn't be advocating. I will tell you one. I am a medical patient, but I'm not someone who smokes anywhere near my children or while like, so that is never going to happen. Nor would I
Right.
advocate for anybody else to be right there lighting up next to them.
Yeah, and then there's a question about the edibles. Yeah, there's been a couple of
Oh,
cases. There was one in Maryland where a mother or a kid somehow got into some edibles, and I don't think the
that's
child may
dangerous.
have died or is very, very
No,
sick.
no, the child did. No, the child did not die. The child got sick. The child got sick. But here's what I would say.
We can have edible vans or something going around. I
No,
swear I
no,
saw
no,
one
no.
of those in New York
So
City.
here's what I would say: as a parent and being a responsible consumer, you need to safeguard these things from children, like stash boxes, lock boxes. So you shouldn't, have this easily accessible, right? The same way, of course, being a responsible parent, you're not going to just have, the liquor bottle where your kids can reach it, or when they become a teenager, you got to start hiding that stuff, right? So
Right.
we all know.
So all that being said, I just I'm a little wary of how the it seems like it's going to be implemented so soon. The recreational marijuana, I guess, will be available. Is it June 1st or July 1st?
It's July 1st.
Yeah, that's coming up awfully fast, and there's a lot of issues out there. Now, I got to tell you, we do have a dispensary, a medical dispensary in the city of Greenbelt, and it's in an area that's appropriate. And I got a chance to tour. Jay Davis and I took a look over there, and they showed us the safe in the back, and they had this pretty big selection. And I've been around. My older brother lives in Los Angeles, and I've been out there a few times. And they got the Green Cross dispensaries every couple of blocks, and you open up the weekly newspaper, the city paper or whatever, and full page ad on the back for different brands.
Holistic alternative.
But I got to tell you though, the medical dispensary in Greenbelt it's worked out very, very well. They're very discreet, very tight security, but no one would know that it was there.
I'm telling you, like a lot of those.
Have you been there? Have you been there?
Oh no, I haven't been away, but I hear about it very frequently from one of your residents, Lawan.
It's a very nice operation. It really is well run, from what I can see.
Yes, and so that's a lot of those different businesses. Like it's no different from your Rite Aid, and that's what I said. I think almost 5 years ago when I was the final vote on the Board of Appeals for Greenpoint. So Greenpoint is the one that's right there on Baltimore Avenue, and so like that's what I said. Hey, a lot of people were saying, "Oh, what about the riffraff? What about this?" Guys, it's a medical facility just like anywhere else, and it's going to be treated that way. And that's just it.
Yeah, where I grew up in Ohio, they have some interesting liquor laws. You can buy beer and wine at any grocery store or bodega at the corner store. But if you want to get rum or hard alcohol, they have these state stores. And, any kind of hard alcohol you have to buy from one of these licensed state stores that are actually run by the state of Ohio. So that's a model that seems to work.
Okay. I mean, and I'm definitely looking into that. I appreciate that. And I know MML, they're going to be doing a symposium sometime after the summer conference to talk specifically about cannabis and municipalities. So, hopefully a lot of questions gets answered, and we can talk amongst other municipal colleagues. So
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of issues out there, just statewide, but also in the county. The legislation, the rent stabilization legislation, seems to be going through some tweaks. I don't know what the experience has been in Laurel. We've been kind of watching closely, seeing what's happening in Laurel. I think Bladensburg, Mount Rainier.
Yeah. Well, the biggest tweaks that the rent stabilization is going through at the county is when they accepted the county executive's amendment. They weren't under the understanding that it would exclude a lot of the senior facilities, and a lot of the seniors were the ones that were advocating, even though some of their increases weren't as astronomical as some of the other ones we were hearing. They were definitely above 3, 5, and so I think that. That is what the correction they're trying to do, is they're trying to make sure that the seniors and that retaliation doesn't happen. I think that's why it was called the retaliation one.
I've heard a couple of stories recently of apartment owners just proactively trying to raise the rents now, knowing that this permanent legislation is coming in. They're taking the window of opportunity to jack their prices up.
Sure. I mean, that's no surprise to me. I mean, even when Mount Rainier was, taking it up, you had landlords saying, "Oh my God, I gotta raise the rent way more than I used to raise the rent." Oh, okay, all right. So just because of this policy. Well, that's why we need this policy, sir. You can sit down. But as I reminded many of the lobbyists, they talk about the market very loosely. The market are the people. The market are the people that elect me and you, right? The market are the people that help them pay their taxes. And so I just have to remind them, that they have to work with the market and remember that these market are human beings, so.
Yeah, it's complicated, and especially coming out of COVID, and we're still not really all the way out of COVID. I'm very concerned about our local economy, regional economy, because a lot of these companies. We have a lot of office space in Greenbelt. I mean, you got a lot of office space in Laurel, but we have high rise office space just off the Beltway, and the vacancy rate was kind of high before COVID. Okay. So we're kind of looking at these employers, and a lot of them are locked into maybe 7-year leases. So they really don't have a chance to do anything until the lease comes up. So the companies that are reconsidering the amount of space that they may need, if their employees are working part-time from home, they don't need as much space. So I'm concerned that some of these companies that are renting a lot of prime office space may actually back out of leases or just decide they don't need as much space. Frankly, I'm kind of worried about the local economy over the next year, 2 years, especially with all the interest rates going up. It's a very unstable time.
No, I mean, I agree, and that's fair, and I'm sure we'll have many robust conversations. But the one thing I wanted to get to was you guys are a very unique city in the sense that I think you're the only municipality that I know that the highest vote getter is the mayor, right? Like, correct me if I'm wrong or tell me other places.
Well, yeah, I can't really cite too many other places, but we're kind of unique in Greenbelt. We have our elections every 2 years, and that's because the voters like to keep us close. And sure. The topic of term limits has come up a few times. We just had one council member, Ed Putin's. He came off the council finally about a year. Let me not say finally, but because he's a dynamic guy, he's an effective council member. He served for 40 years. That's like a lifetime.
I didn't even know. Well, because Jay is what, like 33?
Yeah, she's 33, 35. So she's been on for a very, very long time, and she's a very capable individual.
Sure.
So 2-year elections, and the thing about the 2-year elections. 2 years is really not enough time to get a whole lot done. You can make some promises about what you're going to try and do, but unless you bring most of the council along with you, and not just council, you have to bring staff along with you. One thing that I've learned as mayor, in council hires and supervises the city manager. The city manager is responsible for the day-to-day affairs. It's a little different than Laurel, and I'm just one of 7 council members. We all run at large. And whoever comes out with the top number of votes, the practice is to name that individual to serve as mayor. So I've been very fortunate. This is my 4th term as mayor. The 3 other terms that I served, I was mayor pro tem. So it works out pretty well. It's not written into the city charter, but it's the practice that we have.
And so top vote getter gets mayor, and the second one is mayor pro tem.
That's correct. I think there's a couple of instances where the person that was the top vote getter did not want to serve as mayor. But let me tell you, it's a lot of work. And having a 7-member council, we get some lively discussions. If everybody wants to talk for 10 minutes every meeting, that's like more than an hour right there. That's like an hour and a half right there. So just trying to get a handle on the issues and meeting with the city manager and making sure that staff's policies are being effectively carried out by the city manager. This is a big job. It takes a lot of time.
I agree. I agree. And I was told that, like, when you become mayor, you then become the enemy of the council, but you have to figure out how to corral and work with the council.
Who said that? That's kind of true.
But you gotta, but like I said, you gotta corral and work with them, because it's basically at that point you're the opposition for things and stuff like that, and but that's not the truth. The truth is you guys have to work together to get things accomplished.
Yeah, we got to work together to get anything done. And sometimes I have to push my personal priorities, to the side to work with everybody else. And talking about the economy, that really has been one of my passions from the very beginning when I first got on council. Greenbelt, because of our location, we've always been very fortunate to have a diverse and dynamic business economy. We've got a lot of banks. We have just tons of medical facilities. Someone had suggested that we call Hanover Parkway the medical mile, because just about any specialist that you would need, you can find in Greenbelt. But I've always felt and continue to feel that we could be more proactive and more intentional about the kinds of activities, the attractive, bringing in desirable businesses in the community. So, over time, it's taken me a long time, but we've actually hired an economic development manager and an intern to kind of focus in on the business community. We're a very cohesive residential community, but when it comes to our relationships with local businesses, developers, council has a tendency to ask for a lot. And it's a good thing. Sure. But you got to work on those relationships.
I agree. No, I agree, and I wanted to ask you a few rapid questions. The rapid questions are the ones you don't have to think about, right? Okay. They're the simple ones. So the first one is, who is your favorite superhero and why?
Oh man, I don't know. Spider-Man, I guess. He had the Spidey sense, so we get those tingles when things were happening around him. That's powerful.
I think Peter Franchot said Spider-Man, so you and Peter got it. Yeah. I lie to you not. And
I like the Green Lantern too. I don't know.
The Green Lantern as well. No, I think
the Green Lantern was black.
I think Peter said because he was like the neighborhood hero, right? Like he was like grassroots or something. Like I was like, oh, cool.
Yeah. That is one of my things. I'm just a regular person, and sometimes I think elected officials take themselves a little too seriously, and I try not to. I try and just keep my feet on the ground.
Of course. And so the second question I would ask you is, do you have a quote that you live by?
No.
No quote. Okay.
No quote.
How about a book that you would recommend a young person getting into politics?
I don't know. Just time management, like getting things done, is a book. I've done a lot of reading on time management, but I've also done a lot of reading on communications and persuasion, or helping people to make decisions, and that's been very, very helpful. It's not like I use that a lot, but there's a lot of interesting science-based books on the art of persuasion, just how to say things and how to put ideas across in a way that are more agreeable.
Agreed. And my last question is who is a political person that you look up to? I'm a Bernie bro. So Bernie is probably one of my favorites. Definitely been following Bernie for years. But who is a political figure?
Well, I said before, Mayor Mo is my hero. But wait, hold on.
Hey, I'm gonna tell him. I'm gonna say He put
Yeah,
you out
tell him
there.
I said that. I don't know. I've had a lot of respect for Joe Biden for quite some time. Before 10 years ago, 12 years ago, 20 years ago. I think he was a great senator. I think he's doing a really good job. And, I think in any leadership position, it's not necessarily about who you are. It's about the people around you. And I think that President Biden has a good team around him. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in the next election.
Yes. I mean, I would say you're confident that Joe's running. I'm confident as well.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. He may be running. There may be the vice president. Harris, she might run. Other people may jump in there, and there's a train wreck going on over there in the Republican Party. Who knows what's going to happen over there? So,
I agree. I mean, I know that if Joe wants to run, I'm there with Joe. I believe he will run. I don't think any Republican candidate is going to be taken seriously, especially given that if it's going to be a Ron DeSantis or a Marjorie Taylor Greene or Trump from jail,
crazy stuff down there in Tennessee. I was thinking if somebody's going to come up with a new dance step or something, the Tennessee two step.
I agree.
It's good to see them both getting back in. Let's see if they get their committee assignments. Did you watch any of that on TV? It was just crazy.
No, I do. Are you talking about at the very beginning where it took like 11 days?
In Tennessee?
Oh, no, you're talking about in Tennessee. Oh,
yeah,
in Tennessee. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, did you see any of that?
Yes, yeah. I mean, Justin and Justin. Absolutely.
Just the back and forth, and just the indig, just treating them in such a way. I mean, they represent people. They were elected there for a reason, and the whole way that it was conducted is just an outrage over gun control. There's too many guns. There's too many guns. We need to do something.
I said if they did that in Maryland with my boy Gabriel Acevedo, we would burn down the house.
It's not going to happen in Maryland. Never in Maryland. That's not going to happen in Maryland.
Exactly. Say less. I agree with you. And Mayor Jordan, the last thing I would say is tell people how they can stay connected with you.
Oh, well, you can. I'm not that active on Facebook, and it's not that I don't know how. I do know how. I have a lot of pictures, but Facebook is a business, and I'm not putting my stuff out there so they can monetize all my photographs and I really have some issues with posting things. A lot of stuff on Facebook. I'll probably have to step it up. You can always hit me up at my email address, ejordan@greenbeltmd.gov. I do have a website which I need to update, but it still looks pretty good. jordanforgreenbelt.org. And you can send contributions, cash, checks. Yeah,
make sure to send you got election coming up.
PO Box 471, Greenbelt 20768. And I'll be stepping up my profile. We do have an election coming up, but I'm all about getting the business done. I'm focusing in on our issues in Greenbelt. We got a whole bunch. I can get a chance to talk about the ARPA funding that we got. We received about $22 million. We're doing some really creative things for Greenbelters. We set up a first-time home buyers grant program where folks who've lived in Greenbelt for a year or rented an apartment, they can get up to $15,000 towards a down payment. We got educational scholarships up to $10,000 for young folks, or workforce development for people trying to change their fields and looking for educational money. We even got a tree canopy grant for our homeowners associations, apartment developers. We got hit really hard by those storms. So these multifamily developments, they budget for landscaping, but they don't budget for once in a century storm. So we set aside some ARPA money for that. Doing some creative things above and beyond. We put out about $3 million in rental assistance and mortgage assistance for people. So we were very proactive about trying to make sure that there was a safety net for all of our residents.
Well, no, I appreciate that. As soon as you told me how much you put out like a few months back or almost a year ago, I knew that you guys were beating other municipalities around the area and how much they were putting out for rental assistance and mortgage assistance. So and as you said, there's a slew of other things that you guys are doing over there in the Emerald City. And so
I don't know about the Emeralds. Somebody says that. It's kind of
But I thought,
catchy.
isn't that the tagline? The emerald to those? I thought, okay, all right. I'll leave it alone. I'll leave it alone. But I appreciate you, Mayor Jordan, and
Hey, I appreciate having a chance to come. Hey, we've been talking for a long time. I feel like I've just been dominating the conversation.
no, of
Got
course.
important issues to talk about.
No.
See,
You already know we're gonna get the rent stabilization done. You know, if I have anything to say, right, at the city level, we're gonna get that unionization of public works. You know, and we're
that's
also
right. Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah.
yeah, we're gonna get a host of other things. So you know, I look forward to a new public administration, and you know, I salute you know, the outgoing administration, and of course, you know, I always salute you because you know, I think that you are a great leader, and you know, I look forward to you know, seeing the continued work in Greenbelt.
Okay. Well, I'm waiting for my royalty check from this interview here. So.
Oh my, I got you. I'll make sure you get your ducats. I got you.
Yeah. Hey, take it easy, man. Good talking to you.
I'll see you soon.
Thank
Thanks again. Hey, so that was Mayor Jordan. You know, one of the coolest mayors I know from the neighboring city next door, Greenbelt. Check him out. And you know, we have a very special guest, another new guest. Thanks for joining us, Ashley. How you doing?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
I am doing well. I am blessed and highly favored.
I love to hear that. Me too. Me too. No complaints for sure.
Yes. I like to say I'm black and thriving. You know.
Yes, black and thriving. I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
Yes. And so for people who don't know you, tell them a little bit about yourself, you know, who you are, what you do. And, you know, I know you're a dynamic person, but tell the people out there.
Yeah, so my name is Kitana Ca, aka Ashley E. You may know me by either name. I do a lot of things. I'm an actress. I do music. I'm a booking agent. I do a lot. So, and I'm also very heavily into mental health. So I'm a mental health advocate, currently working on putting some things together in Atlanta to get you know, people of color more into that arena. So that's what I
Yeah.
do.
Hey, so you are an all-around lady boss, a serial entrepreneur. I
Yeah.
hear. So and so like I would tell people and be transparent. You meet people through all spaces, through all walks of life. You know, I met this lovely person on Instagram, and you know, we
Yes.
connected. And so, like, you know, I've seen you doing many different things, and I would say, though, the biggest thing that I got from you know reading and following you was that you are your own inspiration, right? Like after you stepped out there, you continue to try this and continue to try that, and that's the conversation that I have with you know a lot of people. The fact that like it's just trying and starting, right? Like
Absolutely.
and
Yeah,
so
no blueprint, just kind of I have no idea what I'm doing ever. I'm just doing it and figure it out as I go for sure.
you're based in Atlanta, but are you originally from Atlanta or raised in Atlanta?
So I'm originally from New York. That's actually where I am right now. I'm at a whole family gathering right now
Oh,
having this
hey, look at that.
conversation.
Look
But
at
yeah,
that.
so I'm originally from Brooklyn. I'm from Canarsie. Lived in LA for a bit, and I am kind of from Atlanta at this point. I've been there long enough that I think we could claim it for sure.
For sure, for sure. Hey, so that's what's up. You know, I lived in New York before I moved here to Maryland, and so definitely
Yeah.
I go back and visit. You know, I have family from Brooklyn, but we were from Long Island, so I'll be honest with that.
Oh, boo.
Strong ass.
Yeah, I don't
But
know.
yeah, it's all good. It's all good. And so what I wanted to say was, you know, most recently I've seen that you're doing a lot in film, right? And
Mhm.
so like, you know, one of the things that you know I appreciate is you know seeing more black people in film, right? And seeing more black people in roles that they necessarily wouldn't be, right? Like I've noticed early on, you know, the biases that exist in Hollywood, right? And so like, have you encountered that? Do you ever deal with that, like trying to break down barriers or, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the other 900 things I do that I didn't talk about was set design. So I started as an interior designer and kind of broke off into set design. There are very few people that are brown or black that are in that arena. So
Okay.
kind of creating that network and getting to know more people that look like me that are in those spaces has been really interesting and part of my mission individually is creating more space for younger women who want to be, maybe they don't want to be an actress, but they want to be in entertainment. You know what I mean? To be able to understand that there are other ways to be in there and kind of help them expand that and give them the tools to do what they want to do. But even on the front of the camera side, I definitely experience some bias. Not so much anymore, but I'm older than I look. So when I first started, there was definitely like not a lot of people who looked like me that were doing their thing. And even now, because I'm more of like a natural beauty, if you want to call it that, there are times when I've been told, can I straighten my hair? Can I do this? Can I do that? To kind of assimilate to a more like acceptable European look. So all of those are things that I experience on a day-to-day basis.
Wow. Yes. Yes. You are your hair, right? Like, oh man.
I know. It's crazy today too.
Yes. No, I mean, I love it. I've seen it many different styles. It has personality, I'd say, for sure.
Yeah. Thank you. But
Yep.
yeah, so it's definitely been interesting to watch the growth of the industry for sure. And I'm actually intrigued to see where it goes next now that people that are kind of mixed and that whole thing is becoming a thing. When was the last time you saw a commercial where there was a full, family of colored people? If I hate using the word colored, but you know what I mean. Like it's usually we're pushing the agenda of, there's usually a mixed family or something like that that's going on.
Well, I think one of the, and you could tell me if you think I'm wrong. I think one of the positive things that came from what we saw with the George Floyd movement was the fact that like I'm gonna be unapologetically black. I'm pulling up to work with my scarf on. You know what I mean? Like, and they better not say nothing because they know I do great work. You know what I mean? Like, right. I'm not taking my dreads. You know what I mean? Like, so, like that's really what I've seen since that movement is like, I know people have always been taking stands, but like even in the workplace, right? So like, ever since that happened, like, it's like being black is in high demand, right? Like, and
for sure, yeah, it's cool. It's cool to be black right now.
It's because they're seeking black people where they weren't previously, right? And so, like that's why I say that. Like me being in the governmental realm and lobbying, I know I tell almost all you got to have at least one black lobbyist on your team. You're not gonna get anywhere, any bills passed.
For sure.
But the truth of the matter is because like a lot of those legislators want to see, you have, black leadership, black lobbyists. You know what I mean? So they want to see that. And so,
yeah. What was that like for you? Actually, I know you're interviewing me, but I really am interested because I watched like your journey to become councilman, which was kind of dope. And so what did that feel like for you being a black man in that space?
Yeah. So, I mean, for one, I'm only the 6th council person in my city, colored or black in 153 years. So,
wow.
Most of those people came after 2000. The first one was 97 and then, in succession after that. And so it was big. A lot of times I realized the fact that like for black people, it's big and I got to put on. But like for me, I never really always look at myself like the black guy, right? Like I'm just there trying to do the work. But then in the back of my mind, I got to remember, hey, like I am representing not only Laurel, but there's a lot of, people of color whose voices have been silenced, who, ideas haven't come to fruition. And so like, I got to keep that in mind, in my actions. And so I would say that it's been a great experience running. I didn't think I was going to run. The person that I had right before here was a mayor of a neighboring city, somebody I looked up to, one of the OGs. And, he told me the same thing. But I know that like for me, when I got involved, I stepped all the way in. And so like, that's just how I am. If I'm going to get involved, I'm going to be like dedicated. I'm going to see how I can get better. I'm going to see how we can make the community better. And then from there, several years later, I was like, why not start in my hometown? If you want to run, why not start in your hometown? Because I didn't want to run for a long time. And my political science teacher told me, he said, if you have the capacity to lead, but you don't lead, don't be upset when you're led by a lesser person. And so like, I'll never forget that because that was a defining moment in which like, I really got involved in college and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, those are bars. Shout out to the poli-sci teacher because that was a good one. It's a good one. Sure. I think that just stuck with me right now.
Yes. No, but I mean, it's the truth was because like for me, I never wanted to be involved because I thought that politics was corrupt. And don't mind you, politics is corrupt, but you need honest actors to expose the corruption. and
Right.
to act in good faith, right? And so like that's why we need to pay attention in local, state, federal elections, so we can elect honest actors to expose corruption. And
For
so
sure.
yes,
Yeah, you
politics.
can't do anything if you're not on the inside. That's 1000%.
Yes, but it's frustrating in the thought of like there's times where people who look like you and I would not pass a bill that would help the same people that look like you and I, just because it wasn't their idea, just because they didn't like it, like and I think that when you are elected official, sometimes you have to put your personal feelings aside to do what's best for your community. And so
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Have you found yourself in that situation a lot? Like I don't know if I really bang with this, but it's better. It's gonna better everyone else, so I'm gonna ride with it.
Have I ever? I'm usually the firebrand. I'm usually the person that's ringing the alarm. So I would say that like I either feel really good about it or I don't. And if I don't feel really good about it, like if the constituents really want this, and this is something that it can help, I would consider it. Yeah, I would definitely consider it. I haven't put myself in that position yet. Like I've always stood with the people, and I felt stood what's best for the future of this community. So
Dope.
yeah,
Love
I
that. Love
haven't
that.
myself. But trust
I'll
and
stop
believe.
asking you questions.
It's about your interview. It's about your interview, right?
Right.
People need to learn about you. And so I see that you have an online a boutique,
Mhm.
right? Is it a boutique? So
Yes.
tell me more about that. Like, you got to promote Black businesses.
Yeah. So, as I said, I started in interior design and then kind of offshot to some other things. The boutique started actually as a home goods store, and then it has kind of it's evolved into its own thing. So we do pop-ups all around Atlanta, trying to expand to some other markets. I have one in June, I think, in San Francisco with trap art. So that should be really dope and really
I'm on the
fun.
DMV. If you're ever out in the DMV,
Yeah.
sure
Yes,
love.
I'm not in the DMV, but I'm in New York, and it's like a 3-hour train ride, so I gotta come to the DMV sometime
Yes,
soon. But
sure.
yeah, so
So
we specialize in like sustainable goods and home not homemade, local made kind of jewelry and all that kind of thing. So yeah, looking forward to seeing that grow. It's been doing really well. I'm really excited about the growth we've had in the past year or two. It started as a little baby idea and it's kind of created a mind of its own. So really excited about that. You can check us out at the Society Empire on Instagram if you want to look into that a little bit more.
and so of course this will throw you off, but it's a segue. So what is something this decade that you didn't know last decade? Like some moment of wisdom.
Let's see. Moment. So, my mom passed in November, and we had a kind of a complicated relationship, but I think the biggest transformation for me in life has come from that. I kind of think I was just riding the wave until that happened, and then that fundamentally changes you as a person when you lose a parent. And so I would say something I knew or didn't know then that I know now would be that my dad said this to me the other day. Sometimes you can't change the past. You have to just take it from here, right? And I think I've spent a lot of my previous life trying to control things and the outcome and being very, very involved in how things happen. And I'm kind of learning to understand that things are going to happen the way they're going to. So sometimes you can't control shit. You can't change shit. You just kind of gotta take it from here day by day. So that would be some life advice that I'm living by right now.
You can only control what you control, and to put one foot in front of the other, and continue to.
Yeah, you gotta just take it how it comes. You can do what you can, but ultimately it's written. You just
Yes,
do what you
and
gotta do.
the reason I asked you that question is because I don't I don't want to put you out there. I don't know how you are, but I'm 32, right? And so I feel that like in my lifetime, I've learned a lot, experienced a lot, and I think that reflecting on that is important. And I remember the other day I thought like, wow, the growth that I have at 32 is ages away from where I was at 22, and
For
here are some of
sure.
the I learned. So I was just curious on what, some of the other experiences might be,
Yeah,
so.
no, I'm definitely a different person. I think something happened. So I am in my 30s too. So I think something happens when you cross that threshold. It's like you just stop caring, I think, about things you cared about before. You grow up, you
Yeah.
realize that you're kind of in this and you figure it out on your own and you're a little less worried about popular opinion, I think, at this age.
You're completely right. You're completely right. You found yourself. You know who you
For
are. Like a lot
sure. Yeah.
of teenagers, you're still finding yourself. You're still, experimenting with clothing and all this. So yes, you understand. You understand.
I do. I do. I'm right there with you. I got you.
And so I see that it says you're a nomad. What are
Mhm.
some of your favorite places to travel, or what are some of the places that you would like to travel? So some of the favorite places that you have traveled, and some places that you would like to travel.
Yeah, so I've been talking to my friends this year that I'm like Dora the Explorer. I'm trying to go everywhere, you know what I mean? There's no trip I'm saying no to.
I can
So
see
far,
you.
yeah, I'm just walking around. So far, I think my favorite place, which isn't that exotic, but really loved it, was I spent some time in Puerto Rico last year in a small little town called Luquillo. So we didn't do the turnip thing, we didn't do San Juan. It was just like more of a spiritual journey, and we just like drank herbal tea and hiked through the rainforest and went to the beach every day, and it was really, really amazing and beautiful. And the community there is like, they're really beautiful people. Living in America, especially, I live in Atlanta and I was living in Buckhead for quite some time. So I don't know if you all are familiar with Buckhead, but it's like the Beverly Hills of the South. So it's very pretentious,
Ah,
and you can get very lost there because there's no real poverty happening around you, at least not that people are like actually claiming. And I was born and raised in the hood, so that's a lifestyle switch for me. And going to Luquillo and seeing these people, like they were like stuck in like 2005, like all of the cars are super old, the homes aren't crazy, and they're just in the streets living and laughing and having a great time. And I think that when you go overseas and you see people with a lot less, loving life a lot more, it puts things in perspective for you about how like trivial all the things that we chase here are, you know what I mean?
all the
Because
mat-
that's not happiness.
all those material things, like
Yeah.
I say, and it's a quote like from Bob. I forget the exact wording, but it's basically that like what is the value of this material possession, and when
Right.
these material possessions are gone, what will be your value, right? And so
Right.
a lot of times we put value in electronics or clothing, or good times, when we should be putting it in other things, and family, having good experiences, and just furthering our spiritual well-being, right? So all of those things.
Absolutely. Yeah, like we spend a lot of time, most of us work very hard in order to obtain things that other people can see. But what about what you want? You know what I mean? Or like inner peace. That's where I am right now. Is none of this matters. How do I feel on the inside?
Yes. And so I know this is a question that you probably hear all the time, but 5 years from now, where do you want to be? Where do you look to be? You know,
5 years from now, the plan would be to have all of my money and various things that I'm doing running themselves. And
multiple
that way I can be, yeah, absolutely
streams.
multiple streams of income. COVID should have taught everybody that. And just being somewhere, wherever I want to be, Bora Bora, Fiji, Africa, I don't care. Just being able to get residual income, wake up with money in the account, don't have to physically be there, and enjoying all the beautiful things that this world has to offer. It's a big
Hey,
world out here, so I'm just trying to go see it.
hey, for sure. Hey, send me a postcard or two, but
Yeah, I mean, you could come too,
I,
you could come too.
I would like to travel more, so I might take you up on that offer though. But
Yeah.
no, for sure. And so the last question I wanted to ask you is more of a serious question. Was
Okay.
what um what do you think about the state of elections in Georgia? And the reason I say this is because you live in Georgia, and Georgia to me looks like ground zero, like the last two elections. And so like how does it feel, you know, living in Georgia, coming from New York, right, which is, you know, drastically different, right? Like, but I went to Georgia recently and I was around a table of Black Republicans and it was interesting. It was interesting
Yeah.
and so like I know that's a more
Yeah.
but yes, the state of politics, the state of elections in Georgia, like how is that switch? You know, what do you see for the future? More Democrats getting voted in and more, you know, becoming more democratic little by little sometimes, but yeah.
The thing about that is even the Democrats in Georgia, I feel like have their, I mean, this is going to sound horrible because you're a politician, but
It's all good.
politicians are politicians, you feel me? And
Sure.
so there's usually some sort of outside agenda going on, you know?
Well, that's why I'm a
And
public servant. You know, you can't call me politics. I'm a public servant, guys.
yeah, okay. I'm sorry.
So,
But so the Mayor Dickens election, huge deal in Atlanta, really crazy, as was the Raphael Warnock situation. That one was really crazy. And watching all of that go down and living there, and once again living in Buckhead and seeing them try to incorporate themselves as their own city and then getting denied and all of that. It makes me feel like the state of politics in Atlanta, which is probably the case most places, is very much driven by money, and also driven by like popularity, like personal agenda. I have no issue with any of the people that we are talking about. However, I do feel like I have, which is probably going to get me in trouble for saying this. I feel like I have personal issues with Andre Dickens as far as the way he's leading. I think we elected him thinking that he was going to come in and kind of like really do some real crazy change to the city. And it feels almost more like he's more worried about being cool than he is worried about making things happen, you know what I mean? So that's just kind of my outlook on it right now. Like, I see him in the city a lot. I see him in parties. I see him hanging out with all the tastemakers and all the rappers and all. Sorry, there's a bee in my face. And all the cool people. But I'm like, but what about what you're supposed to be doing though? Because I haven't seen any real change go down. Yeah, so that's kind of how I feel about it. I have a running joke about Atlanta that I feel like it's where all the lost souls come to create new lives, which is also probably going to get me in trouble. But that's how I feel, and
well, I mean,
that's kind of where we are in the situation.
You're saying it, but you would have been one of those lost ones, right? So
yeah, exactly. So yes. But yeah, so we'll see what happens. You know, we've got a couple of years to see how this progresses, but that's where we are, in my opinion, in the current situation.
I know it was drastically different living in New York and then just, you know, moving to Georgia. So that had to be a little bit of a shock, right? Like just right. I'm sure that was a shock.
I don't feel like the people in Atlanta are as involved in politics as they are in the other cities I've lived as well. You know, like in New York and LA, I feel like people aren't scared to kind of like ruffle feathers. Like New York, they're good for a strike. They're good for whatever they need to do to get things done. That doesn't really go down in Atlanta.
You're right. I get you. And that's fair. And you know, we always do a rapid round. And so the rapid round, it's usually 3 to 4 questions that you don't have to think about. The first question that I ask is, who is your favorite superhero and why?
Wonder Woman, because she's a woman. And I think she's just
so
like
cliche. I feel like every woman says Wonder Woman now.
Yeah, I think that one's easy. If I had to choose, who would I choose if I didn't choose Wonder Woman? I'd probably go Storm just because she's dope and you know, she can fly and do cool shit. So those would be my 2 favorites. Yeah.
Storm and Wonder Woman.
Storm and Wonder Woman, yeah.
Favorite quote or quote you live by?
Favorite quote or quote I live by. All who wander are not lost.
All who wander are not lost. I like that one. I use the fall down 8 times, get up 9.
Get up. Yes, that's a good one too. That's a good one.
And so the last one I ask you is, are you a cannabis consumer? And if you are, do you have a favorite strain?
I live in Atlanta, so cannabis consumerism doesn't really go down. But yes, I am a cannabis consumer, and I usually
Oh yeah,
smoke
they haven't went
indicas.
full rec yet. You guys haven't went full rec yet, so maybe that's down the
No, yes, medicinal only. But yeah, when I moved to LA, and it's actually legal in New York now too. So yeah,
line.
I'm definitely a consumer. I
I
definitely
remember that New
partake.
York sour, that New York piff, man. What? Exactly.
Yes, yes. I know that's definitely something I think once I flush the 900 things I'm already doing out would be next on the list is trying to either invest or create a strain.
Hey, okay. And so wait, did you have a favorite strain or one that you remember or
Um, I'm not a favorite. Like I said, I'm partial to indicas, so usually that's what I
oh and
go for. The most recent thing I bought was some pre-rolls by a woman-owned brand called Miss Grass. I don't remember the name of the strain I bought, but it was good. And yeah, I bought it in Vegas or something like that, like 2 months ago.
well you supported a woman-owned business, so
I did. I did.
appreciate that. Supporting women-owned, minority-owned, veteran-owned, black-owned,
All of
and
that. All of
yeah,
that.
yes, and the future is female, so good luck to you, and keep
Thank
keep
you.
thriving out here.
Thank
And
you
tell
so
people how they stay
much.
connected. Tell people how they stay connected with you.
I'm sorry. Oh, yes, you can stay connected with me on Instagram at I love Ashley E is my handle. That's pretty much the gateway to everything else. So holla at me.
Yes, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks again, Ashley, aka Kitana Cash, and I wish you the best out there this weekend.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm gonna go eat with my family now. I appreciate you having me. Take
Yes,
care.
much love. I'll talk to you soon. Hey, that was Ashley E. Another great episode of People Over Politics. We had a bunch of great guests today. We had Kristal Bush back again, Mayor Emmett Jordan from the city of Greenbelt, and then we had Ashley, based out of Georgia, but now back in her hometown of Brooklyn. And it was a pleasure to connect with all of them. See you guys next week. Have a good one.